It's my opinion that if you support a particular politician or a particular party, that doesn't give them a free ride, that if they do something you don't agree with, you should call them out. And that's what I'm doing today. Welcome to my channel, y'all. I hope you're having a great day. Now, you all know that I really support Pierre Poilievre and his policies. I think he will be a good Prime Minister for Canada. And even though I supported Stephen Harper back in the day, there are many things that Stephen Harper did that I didn't agree with. And now Pierre Poilievre has come up with something that I really question. I'm not sure it's the best way to go about this issue with Trump south of the border. As a matter of fact, I think that he's kind of stumbled a little bit. Let's just put it that way. Not that he's done anything majorly wrong, but I think that instead of refusing to go down and meet with Trump because he's not yet the Prime Minister, that he should go down and meet with Trump. I think that he should tell Trump, hey, wait on the tariffs, at least until I become the Prime Minister, and then you'll have a better partner to negotiate with. I think that he should point out that Canadians hate Trudeau probably even more than Trump hates Trudeau. And I think that he should point out our long-standing relationships dating back to the 19th century, the end of the 1800s. I think he should do all of that. I think it will go a lot further than sitting across from an interviewer in Atlantic Canada saying that he would also put tariffs on the United States. Entering into a tariff war, in my opinion, is a wrong way to deal with this. I think that he should tell Trump that we should be looking at how we can benefit both of our countries, and that is not just a win-lose relationship, that we could have a win-win relationship. Before I go any further, let's cut to that interview or a clip from that interview, and then we'll discuss it further.
We are a week away now from American tariffs with almost all certainty. There's a real concern, I'm sure you've heard it in this region, about the potential impacts. Wondering if you can tell our viewers one specific thing, if you were in power, that you would do to respond to those.
Well, I don't want to, if you don't mind, I'd like to list a few things. One would obviously...
The more you want to list, the better. I think people would like to get some specifics about how we're going to tackle this.
President Trump is a deal maker. He wants to win, but we're both going to lose as Americans and Canadians if we get into a trade war. So what I would say is, how do we position the decision for him so that he understands that America can only win if it allows open, unbridled free trade with Canada? So I would retaliate, and I would target products and services that A, we don't need, B, we can make ourselves, and C, that we can buy elsewhere, so that we maximize impact on the Americans while minimizing impact on Canadians.
I don't necessarily disagree with those statements. However, I do believe he started off strong there, and then he jumped to retaliatory tariffs way too quickly. Now, this is where I think that he's not really stepping up to the plate, or at least not fast enough. I know he's got a reason why he doesn't want to go down and meet with Trump. I know that he says he's not in the position to do that because he's not yet the Prime Minister. But everybody knows he will be the Prime Minister, except maybe the Liberals and the NDP. Everybody knows that he will be Canada's next Prime Minister. So why not get a jump on things? Why not go down to meet with Trump and tell Trump, hey, why don't you hold off on these tariffs until you can negotiate with me? Because I will have a mandate. It will be a 4-year mandate, and we can get this sorted out. Now, remember, the tariffs that are being threatened for February 1st next week, those are tariffs because of an insecure border. Trump has said that time and time again. The tariffs for the trade imbalance that doesn't truly exist, now they will come in around April the 1st, or at least that's when his study of that issue will be returned to him. So we do have a little bit of time on that issue. What we have to do is convince him now that we're securing the border, or that we're serious about securing the border, and that once the Conservatives are in power, that they will secure the border. These other tariffs, this trade imbalance tariffs, we have a little bit of time to negotiate that, but he needs to get down there. He needs to get down there quickly. And threatening a trade war, I just don't think that's a very smart idea. You know what? Take Danielle Smith with you. Take Kevin O'Leary with you. He's got a few good ideas. And tell or ask Trump just to hold off until you become the prime minister. He needs to introduce himself to Trump. He needs to convince Trump that he is a serious partner in this North American thing we have happening here. And him not meeting with Trump, well, in my opinion, that's a mistake. And I support him. I want him to be prime minister. But I think he's making a mistake there.
Secondly, I would to pass an emergency, bring it home tax cut on work, investment, making stuff in Canada, energy, home building, so that we can stimulate more economic growth here. 3, we need to become more self-sufficient. That means knocking down barriers, more interprovincial free trade. We have freer trade with the Americans today than we do with ourselves. We have to knock down those barriers, build pipelines, LNG liquefaction facilities to sell our stuff to the world without having to go through the Americans. If they're going to be an unreliable trade partner, we've got to find ways to sell more to ourselves and more to the rest of the world.
Now, those are very good points. We do need to become more self-sufficient. We do need tax cuts. That's huge. We need those. And we also need to be able to sell to the rest of the world. I like all of those ideas. But when he says that that he's doing this because the Americans are an unreliable trading partner, I think that's kind of a misstep there. Yes, we need to make sure that they are more of a partner, but and we need to do all of these other things. But you know what? These are things that we need to be doing regardless. This should be part of the plan, and not just because Trump is threatening these trade tariffs. We should be doing this because it's good for Canada. Period.
Do you see it as a dollar for dollar retaliation?
I would say so, yeah. It has to hit hard. And again, we have to be very pinpoint and surgical to make sure we're maximizing impact on the American side while minimizing impact on our side.
Now, don't get me wrong here. I think that he made a lot of really good points. I just don't think that jumping straight to a tariff war is a good idea. I think that we should do a negotiation. And I think that he should take a book or a page out of Danielle Smith's book. Matter of fact, let's go to a Zoom press conference that Danielle Smith gave a little less than a month ago. It was prior to the inauguration, and she made a lot of good points in that press conference. She's not ruling out the possibility of tariffs, as she's not, but she does make a very good point that with negotiation, we should be able to convince Trump that we don't have a trade imbalance, and that those particular tariffs shouldn't come into effect. Now, as far as the border goes, that's a whole other story. We have to be able to convince him that we are doing enough to secure the border, working towards that at this point. I'm not sure that he's convinced on that, but again, if Pierre goes down and talks to him, that may go a long way. So let's cut to a little bit of that Zoom press conference from early January, and then we'll talk about it.
Yesterday, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly talked about, she was asked specifically if in negotiations with Trump, Canada would consider an energy embargo on the United States. And I want to, as leverage, what do you think, what do you make of what she said?
Well, first of all, it's oil and gas that's owned by the provinces, principally Alberta, and we won't stand for that. And you should never, ever threaten something you cannot do. And I would encourage the minister to look at a map of where Line 5 goes. Line 5 comes down through Michigan to get to Sarnia. And then that feeds the bulk of the supply needed for Ontario and connects with Line 9, which feeds the bulk of the product needed for Quebec. And so if you cut off that line, you are cutting off Ontario and Quebec. So I would encourage the ministers to either understand how our integrated pipeline system works, and start looking at ways that we would be able to practically respond, because there's no point in making empty threats that cannot be executed on. So there are other things, I'm sure, that we'll all talk about collectively, but let's just remember how integrated our markets are with the Enbridge system, the TC Energy system, that we have a product going back and forth across the border every single day. And we cannot do anything that harms Canadians in such a substantial way. So I just don't take that as a credible threat. I'm sure that the U.S. administration won't either. So we should talk about things that we actually can do as opposed to empty threats.
And I think that's a very valid point. We have a bunch of fools right now going down and making these empty threats. We cannot cut off energy to the United States without harming ourselves first. So that's a very good point. I wanted to get that in there right off the top. So let's carry on.
If they were to proceed down that path for some reason, what would be Alberta's response?
Well, they will have a national unity crisis on their hands at the same time as having a crisis with our U.S. trade partners. We just won't stand for that.
So right there, Danielle Smith laid it on the line. It would be a national unity crisis. Alberta would likely secede from Confederation, or at least that was my interpretation of what she said. And I don't think that's going to happen. So we can kind of put that aside for now, but I think that it was important for her to get that out on the table so that Melanie Joly and all these other fools that we have in Ottawa right now are aware of the stakes.
And I don't think Ontarians in Quebec should stand for that as well. They shouldn't be standing by and listening while a federal minister talks about cutting off their energy supply. That's just not on. That makes no sense.
I see actually we missed the Paul Munga's follow-up here. So the Paul Munga Wall Street Journal, how does the Premier feel about the idea of an export tax?
There's going to have to be some kind. If a 25% tariff comes in across the board on all of our goods, there will have to be a Canadian response. My efforts are to try to avoid that altogether. I feel like it would be mutually damaging to have 25% tariffs across the board on U.S. goods coming into Canada. That would harm Canadian citizens at a time when we have an affordability crisis, in the same way that a 25% tariff across the board on our goods to the U.S. will harm U.S. citizens, some more than others. There are some states whose refineries, we've got 50 refineries that rely on Canadian oil. Those states are going to suffer the biggest increase in gasoline prices. So, which is also an objective of the administration, is to keep energy costs low. So, I hope cooler heads prevail. I hope we're able to make the case that taking out energy, Canada actually has the trade deficit. We're a good partner. We buy a lot of goods from the United States, more than any other jurisdiction. And we should maintain this tariff-free relationship for the benefit of both of us. That's what I hope is the outcome. But and that's what I'll keep continuing to argue until we see what actually happens on January the 20th.
And I like that response. She's not eliminating the possibility of taxes or export tariffs. She's not, writing that off, but she's focused on the positive. She's not focused on the negative. She is focused on avoiding all of that altogether. So that's what I think that Pierre should take down to the U.S. And again, I think that he should go down immediately. Don't wait until after the election. Get down there. introduce yourself to Trump. Make it known that you're a serious politician who he can work with, that you're not Prime Minister Trudeau, that you're not, a backstabber, or, that you're not going to badmouth him behind his back or try to make him look like a fool or undermine what he's done, because that's exactly what Trudeau did. No, make sure that you introduce yourself to Mr. Trump and make sure that he can rely on you, or he knows that he can rely on you as a partner. And then we could probably avoid all of these. But that's just my opinion. I'd like to know what you think. Put your comments down below. And while you're at it, please like this video, share with your friends and on social media. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell notification so you never miss another video. Also, please join me on Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific time on both YouTube and Rumble for my live stream, where you're invited to join in on the conversation. Finally, I do teach the Canadian firearms safety courses. These are courses you need to get your Canadian firearms license, which you need to either possess or purchase a firearm in Canada. So if you reside on Vancouver Island and you want to take one of my courses, there are links in the show notes of this video to my website where you can sign up for one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.